Hey, what's up out there? David Duford here at davidduford.com, where I help insurance agents like you become top producers. Season greetings to those who are watching in December. I just got done and picked up my gigantic ham here, so we are ready to roll. Today's purpose and reason for filming this video is to give you a rundown of what I believe are going to be the top 5 final expense carriers for. I have, based on a lot of the developments out there in the final expense, ease of use category has really helped me change up my lineup, at least what I'm going to suggest to my agents. And that's kind of what you're going to hear in this video. It's hopefully just some guidance as to what really matters when you're looking at a final expense carrier, what factors you should consider. And then I'm going to lay out here so you can get a good idea of what I think would be great choices for 2020 and beyond. So here's the thing. I think if anything we have learned, us experienced agents, is that if you pick the wrong carriers, even if they're good companies with good underwriting, but with really bad application processes, it can totally take the wind out of your sails. If you write a carrier where 1 out of 3 or even 1 out of 2 of your apps gets rated up, has amendments attached to it, that's half of the money that you could have and should have collected with another alternative carrier. So it used to be, prior to some of the underwriting changes, that there was one particular carrier that would fit that, but then bring on all that amendment issues. That's not the case anymore. The advancement of final expense carriers in the ease of use category has done very, very well. It's increased tremendously. And so I think we're at a point now where we should be only using, and this goes for you old dogs too, electronic application process. So paperless processes, telephonic apps are good, but e-apps are better. And then also, I think to do any kind of instant or any time of e-app, you need to do an instant decision app. So that means once you submit the application or do some kind of preliminary submission, you know where things stand. Again, without a phone call, without paperwork. That's incredibly powerful, and we can do it with a handful of carriers now without all the frustrating go backs, amendments, and everything else that used to be the case. So what this means is there's a real opportunity to not just get ease of use with your carriers and final expense, but also to make sure that you've got carriers that have good underwriting and also have good pricing, which I believe obviously are also important components too. So without further ado, let's get to the list. So for me and my agency, the number one carrier we're going to be endorsing is Prosperity Life Group's new Vista product. So everything I've just described, it fits perfectly. It has an instant e-app decision. So you submit the app on a laptop or a tablet or some sort of device, and you get an instant decision at the conclusion, whether you know it's going to be level, graded, or modified. And again, Prosperity will also tell you where and what questions should have been asked, or at least tell you why it was rated up if that's the case. And that will help you pivot to some of the other carriers we're going to talk about in a little while. A quick underwriting highlights, what I like about Prosperity Life. There's a 2-year look back on heart and most cardiac and heart issues, 3-year look back on cancer, and it's diabetic friendly. What's great about Prosperity, not just on its basic underwriting, its underwriting is not like incredible. It's a good mainline type of underwriting with no huge type of requirements. Yeah, I just got your message there, Jason. Yeah, I think that I'll have to get back to you on that. I think that was for the mobile app, which is a different thing that Apple uses. That's different from the other one, my understanding. But there's some other perks here I think that are worth mentioning with Prosperity Life that are still good to use. So number one, with Prosperity's e-app, or with its you have the ability to get full commission at level, graded, and modified rates. Okay. So a lot of carriers, if you look around, you look at commission grids, will haircut you for those comps. Prosperity doesn't. You're full comped on 2-year waiting period, true graded, where it's 30% first year, 7% second year, full coverage for third year and beyond into the level. That's huge. That makes a big difference. Also, they're subject to change. So I don't know if you're watching this years in the future. I can't promise this is still around, but there's a 10% quarterly cash bonus, not subject to chargebacks, if you can do 20,000 in issue paid business every quarter. So that adds even more opportunity. They take non-cigarette users as non-smokers. So your cigar, cigarello, old women chewing dip, whatever it is that they do, they will get non-tobacco rates. So I'm pretty bullish on this company, as you can see. I think you should absolutely pick them up if you haven't already. And if your goal is like mine, which is to eliminate frustrations while retaining an element of flexibility in underwriting and also the pricing, good pricing. Hey, Vin, Americo's Eco Premier. Yeah, hang with me. I'll get to that in the end here. So next product on the list here, very much like Prosperity, but better priced, more competitive when you need to have that extra little angle, is Oxford Life's final expense policy. Oxford's been around a long time. I've used them off and on throughout my career as a personal producer. And I think Oxford Life has a great product that we should all be seriously consider using. It's an e-app process. It uses something called the InstaWrite process, where you go online, you put the client's information in, and within a couple of minutes, they will show you where the client stands from start to finish, about 5 minutes total. And so you know really quickly if it's qualified for Oxford or not. Now, the thing about Oxford is it's a little bit tighter on underwriting. In some ways it is, not in other ways. It's got a 2-year look back on cancer and most heart conditions. It's insulin friendly after age 30. There's a lot to like about it, but it's going to be tighter a little bit on the height weight chart and a little tighter on the prescription schedule. But I think it has a good fit for when you need, and you're doing replacements, let's say, and you need to go that extra mile to make sure that you get the best deal possible. That's kind of my main lineup for the level kind of coverage. So now what we're going to talk about are when our clients can't fit into a level product, or maybe we want to try to get first day full coverage instead of, say, Prosperity graded or modified. So the first I'm going to mention are my guaranteed issue carriers. Now, this is kind of a toss up here. I said 5 carriers. It's going to be several more than that. Great Western and AIG are my go-to guaranteed issue carriers this year, with probably AIG being number 1. Why is that? Basically competitive price. That's the big difference. But Great Western's not too far behind in pricing to possibly consider using them instead. Real quick recap of AIG. It's 50 to 85. So you have guaranteed issue up to age 85. That's helpful. It's a $5,000 to $25,000 minimum and maximum. And then you have an e-app process. Of course, it gets issued. It's guaranteed to be issued. After all, it's guaranteed issue. And now the thing is that there's going to be circumstances where AIG doesn't cover. Let's say you want to write something below 5,000 in coverage. Maybe you want to write some coverage above 25, or possibly somebody younger. That's where Great Western comes in. Now, Great Western has level coverage, and it also has guaranteed issue coverage. All I'm concerned about with Great Western is a guaranteed issue product. It pays well. It advances commission. It's decently priced. It's not too terribly bad. But the big thing about it is you have minimums of 1,000 in coverage up to 40,000, and the minimum age is 40 all the way to 80 years old. So this will help kind of fit what AIG doesn't offer. So I think kind of thinking about them at the same time is a useful thing. Now, let's talk about some niche-based carriers that I think are going to be very much worth considering to cover those hard-to-place conditions like COPD, recent heart history issues, blood thinner usage, that kind of thing. So the first on the list here is Liberty Bankers Life. The second is Foresters. It's a very close toss-up. The biggest difference, I think, for me, has more to do with the paper application process that Foresters requires. Okay, Liberty Bankers Life is a telephonic application process. You can get conditions like COPD, lupus, Parkinson's, hepatitis C history, all standard coverage in most circumstances. And they've got to look back at heart and cancer issues, and they also issue at a young age. So I like them because of those underwriting nuances, but also because there's some flexibility there and the telephonic application process. Now, as far as Foresters goes, I think Foresters is worth considering too. Understand it's a pay with an applicable-based decision-making process for underwriting, which is way better than just sending an app in and seeing what happens. They're basically going to duplicate what Transamerica has done as far as their underwriting goes. So what do I mean by that? So if you look at the new application, They have a modified, or they call it the basic plan, then a standard, and then the preferred plan. So the standard plan and the preferred plan are very much the same as Transamerica's old policy, in the sense that there's a 1 to 2 year look back on cardiac issues, COPD, some neurological issues are taken first day full coverage. Okay, so there's definitely a niche base there. And then, of course, if they answer no to everything, they get preferred. And if they answer yes to all those questions in that section, it's still standard, whereas it used to be Transamerica was one yes question, but if you have multiple yes questions, you're out of luck. So I think both of those carriers are going to be useful. I'm biased towards the Liberty Bankers Life really just because of the ease of use. It's kind of a toss-up otherwise, but I would rather know before I go and get the application interview completed, not have amendments, stuff to go back to. Again, that's a big deal to me this year. So let's talk about some notable mentions here, kind of the fifth carriers here. I think what I would call price busters. So I think it's important to have price busters in your toolbox of final expense carriers to help facilitate replacements when they're there and when your client demands the lowest prices possible. So the two companies, depending on the states that you're in, that I think are great for this is first Standard Life and Standard Life and Casualty, excuse me, one out of Utah. There's actually two Standard Lives. And then the second one is Life Shield. So if I had my preference, I prefer Standard Life and Casualty, probably just because I've written with it for so long. I understand the underwriting. It's very good, though. They will take insulin. They'll take gabapentin for diabetic neuropathy. They've got 2 year look backs on heart and cancer. They do have a tighter height weight chart. They're like Oxford in the sense that you're either going to get preferred or standard or nothing at all as far as ratings go. And there is one little bother about it where, Ben, I'll get to that in just a second, where with Trinity, with Slack, they don't let you have coverage on people who are receiving disability compensation. Okay. So anybody 65 and older on disability, you're out of luck. You're not going to get coverage with them. So that sucks, in a little way, but this just kind of comes with the territory. One of those things you got to accept. Now, Life Shield is very useful as long as your client's never had cancer. I believe it's a 2 year look back on heart issues, and they don't take insulin. I think I might be wrong. It might be completely not friendly with diabetes, but the prices are very low. With them, there is a paper app, as there is with Slack. Now, Slack has a interview process to get an instant decision, whereas Life Shield, you have to send in the application to see if it's approved. So why I prefer Slack over Life Shield. But Life Shield's probably a little bit better priced in most categories. I think they're pretty good on smoker rates. Slack is too, really. But I think they're useful to have in the mix for our purposes of writing business. So last but not least, a couple of mentions of some carriers that are not on this list. That's like my list, okay, for my agents. This is where I want to focus. But what about these other good companies? What about Trinity? What about America? What are those things? I think if you write those carriers, you can do very well with them. Absolutely. The thing is, in my mind, Trinity for sure. Trinity is very much like the rest of the application processes, but it lacks some of the advantages or benefits that the others provide. I think if they offered an EAP process with an instant decision, it would be a big difference. But still, if you just decide to write Trinity Life, I've made that a focal point in my agency for years. I still think it's a great carrier. It's got great underwriting. It's got great flexibility, what you need to see. So you're not making a bad decision if you have a preference towards Trinity over another. I just prefer agents to tele-app, of course. As far as America goes, America's not on my list, and the main reason why is that I believe if you look at the underwriting, I believe if you look at the also the pricing, you're not going to have a competitive carrier. Again, it's not America's king with ease of use. You get an instant decision on the EAP, and it's Eagle Premier product. But when it comes down to the pricing and underwriting, I still think that is somewhat higher than what we should see, and it gives exposure to you on possible replacements. Now, people will debate on the level of replacement. That's always been a debate in this business. But I think we can all agree it does increase the risk. How much it affects you, nobody really knows. But all things equal, if I had the choice between different carriers, I would choose one of the other ones that I mentioned that have EAPs as well, just because I know that the pricing is a little bit more in range where I want it to be. And yeah, like that's the thing with final expense carriers. There's a lot of good carriers out there, but they're like fall short in one or two categories, and they kind of make them, in my opinion, for the independent agent who has choices, kind of redundant. There's no reason to carry, in my opinion, America Eagle when you've got Foresters, Liberty Bankers Life, and all these other products I mentioned earlier, even with its niches. So, but hey, there's worse out there for sure. But that's where I stand on carriers. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm live streaming this, obviously, in some plaza next to Honey Baked Ham, and I'm going to go ahead and post this, so you'll see the recording, and then I'm going to put below this video some links to more information on how my program works. In fact, I think what I'll do to make it easier is put a link down to daviddufour.com/contact. You can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to provide you a ton more information on these carriers. Whether or not you want to contract with me is totally not a part of this, no obligation whatsoever. But I would love to be of service to you, to help in some form or fashion. So if you click the link below, which will be there later, if it's not there yet, give me some time to get home. daviddufour.com/contact. I'll send you over information about each company so you can study it up a little bit more yourself and see if it's a good choice for your final expense business. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully that covers everything. I probably missed a few things right now. Like that cover Social Security authorization benefit. Prosperity offers that. Trinity Life as well. Some other carriers I think on the list. So I didn't cover everything. Just kind of covered the major things. But if you want to know more information, you know what to do. Reach out to me, David Duford at daviddufour.com. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.